welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hit subscribe, ring the notification bell, and you'll get a little notification every time I make a new video. In this video, I'm going to try to convince you to start a meditation practice. I talked a little bit about this in my What I Learned in 2020 video that I'll link below. But if you haven't started a meditation practice, I really, really highly recommend that you do, especially if you're dealing with a chronic disease where there's like a disconnect between your mind and your body. And if meditation automatically puts a bad taste in your mouth, like just the word of like, oh, that's too out there, that's too woo-woo, I'm not someone who meditates. If those are like the feelings that come up when I say meditation, then don't call it meditation. You don't have to. When I talk about meditation, really what I mean is having a deep personal relationship with yourself. It's getting to know the way that your mind works and getting to know what you spend a lot of time thinking about, getting to know how that makes your body feel. Just taking quiet time with no distractions, which is super hard, and you have to do it intentionally these days, to not have your phone out, to not have, even have music playing. I mean, music can be a really good tool to meditate by focusing 100% on the music, but there's also benefit to complete silence and listening inward. And the longer you sit in that silence, the more you realize that nothing's ever silent. There's always music playing at all times, like the symphony of the universe, the creaks from your neighbors, or the airplane going by, or the cars going by, the train going, like all of this contributes to what your background music really is. And it can be really beautiful the longer that you sit in silence. And you'd be really surprised what happens once you sit through that discomfort. Once you realize that discomfort is a catalyst for growth, then sitting in meditation is going to be a lot more desirable to you, because it is very uncomfortable to sit and actually do nothing, to not talk, to not listen, to just sit and observe. And you really have to do it for long enough that you realize what's going on in your head. Because most of the time what happens when you first sit down to meditate, if you've never done it before, is, okay, now what? I'm sitting here, nothing's happening, this is stupid, I could be getting so much stuff done right now, this is such a waste of time. Like, that's gonna happen for a long time. And you have to sit through that. You have to remind yourself of the present moment. And I think a really nice tool for getting out of that questioning and mind space when you first start meditating is to come into the senses. It's to focus on what you can see, even if your eyes are closed, like focusing on what you see behind your eyelids, and then focusing intently on what you can hear, and like listening to all the different layers of sounds. Try to listen to what's furthest away from you. Try to listen to what's closest to you. Try to listen to what's inside you, your heartbeat. And then focus on what you can feel. Feel the surface you're sitting on. Feel your clothes touching your skin. Feel the air touching your skin. And then focus on what you can smell. Smell the aromas that's entering your nose. Focus on what you can taste. Taste the inside of the mouth. Maybe brush your teeth. And just focus on every single thing that is actually in this present moment. And then you realize that our mind is like a train, either moving to the past or to the future. And if you're feeling depressed or upset or defeated, oftentimes you're ruminating in the past. You're thinking about like, oh, why did I do that yesterday? Oh, I wish I didn't say that last week, or just whatever it is. You're thinking about things that happened already, and it already happened. So that's not in the present moment. Or if you're feeling anxious or like busy or like you don't have time to meditate, then you're probably thinking about the future. You're thinking about something you want to do later, the grocery list that you have, or the plan you're doing for work, or something you have to tell someone. Those are all things that aren't happening right now. They're happening in the future. But as soon as you notice that your mind is going to the past or going to the future, that automatically brings you to the present, because you're like, oh wait, that's not happening right now. Come back here, senses, come back to what is actually in this moment right now. And you can think of it like how you would clear the cache on your computer or something. The only way that you can sort through what's taking up real estate in your mind is by being in the present moment and by observing the thoughts, not being there, but being here and being like, okay, I'm thinking about making a list for this thing, then make note of it because that's valid. You have to do it. So the thoughts that have purpose to them, you can write them down and remember to return to them later. And then you don't have to think about them right now. You can come back to the present. There's different analogies for this thing. One that really made sense to me was cars on a highway. So if you're sitting on the side of a road and you're watching all the traffic going by, going to the past, going to the future, just going back and forth, going with one of those thoughts would be like running and jumping on a car and riding with it. You don't want to do that. Don't do that. Your job is to just sit and watch the traffic. You can notice what color, what shape each car is, and what direction it's going, and make note if you want to come back to that car later. But for the practice of meditation, that's a practice. You can set a timer, 3 minutes to start and work your way up. The practice is not going with those thoughts for now. And it's really, really hard, especially if you've never done it before. It doesn't sound like what you're supposed to do because the planner in you is always going to want to investigate those thoughts and be there fully. So you have to train that inner meditator in you and just observe. Observe what's happening. Observe the thoughts, observe the sensations without trying to change anything at all. See if you can just sit in what's already here. And it's hard. It's a practice. That's why it's called a meditation practice. And some days it's super easy and you have breakthroughs and then you're like, oh, sweet, I'm good at meditating now. But then the next day you try again and it's back to square one. There's no linear path with it. It's just some days are good, some days are bad, some days are easy, some days are hard, and it's very unpredictable. There's this documentary that just came out on Netflix called Headspace, I believe, and it's really good for someone, it's good for someone who has a meditation practice already, but it really is fundamentals. So if you've never meditated before, I highly recommend that you watch that, because that explains it better than I could right now. And I think it's really beneficial for people with chronic diseases where the doctors aren't really sure what the cause is. They just know that stress makes it worse, That's why meditation is so beneficial to us, because there is some amount that our brain can contribute to either helping or hurting us. It's not the only factor. Your brain can't create this disease. It can't make things up and make it reality. But it can make things worse, because I do know that when I'm stressed or if I'm hyper focusing on my digestion, it will get worse. And I do know that when I'm out with friends and having fun and not thinking about my stomach, I have perfectly fine bowel movements, nothing ever happened. A lot of the time. There's always exceptions, but in general, a stressed out mind can make your physical health worse. So just something to really consider if you don't have a daily practice like this in your life already. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.